Okay, so I'm going to show you how to use a technique called frottage. And frottage is the French word for rubbing. And so it's placing a piece of paper on top of a texture and rubbing with a crayon. That's what we're going to do, or other art medium. It could be chalk, it could be it could be pencil, to transfer to the paper. So an artist named Max Ernst in 1925, he kind of developed this technique in art, and so did Joan Miro. But this is something that artists have done all the time. Not artists, just people have done when you want to transfer the actual texture of an object to a piece of paper. So in printmaking, since that's the essence of what we're doing, like this is linoleum, and so the part that's raised becomes what prints. So it's a relief print. So this was inked after it was created, and then this is the print from this plate. So this texture transferred to the paper, which is the essence of printmaking. So usually we use ink to transfer whatever is on our plate or block. So these are letterpress blocks. So the letter A and the number 3, they're going to be backwards because, or maybe this is a G. Yeah, this is a G. These are backwards because everything prints in reverse when you're using ink. So what's cool about frottage, another example of a lino cut, piece of linoleum that's cut, it was inked and then printed, and then this was the print from that. What's cool about frottage printing is you are just taking the textures of found materials. So you're not creating these plates or these textures, you're finding them. And we're using crayons work really well because it's a semi-soft material, to use the side of a crayon to transfer that texture to a piece of paper. Here's an example of a collage. Now this was made with ink. So these different textures, like this bubble wrap and different materials, were glued to a board, and then it was inked and then printed and stamped onto here. We're going to do a real direct kind of method using things. We're going to look for textures that we find around our house to transfer. So what you're going to need today before you start is you're going to need paper. So if you got a kit, you have small colored paper, small white paper, and slightly bigger. And the bigger paper we're going to save to attach our collage. So we will take our, we'll use a bigger paper, but you can still use this to transfer. It really doesn't matter what size, but we're going to cut these pieces out later after we transfer some designs. So here's an example of a collage that was made from pieces of the frottage. I know the words sound similar. They're both French. So you can see like the texture was transferred with crayon to the paper first. Texture was transferred to this background paper, and then she got real creative and cut different designs. This is another nice example. She took her frottage pieces and she cut them and glued them into this composition. So this is abstract or non-objective. You can do that. You could do something realistic, which this is, with the trees. So it's up to you. So you don't even really have to have in mind your finished collage when you start this. You're just finding as many cool textures as you can that you think will transfer. So you'll need paper and you'll need crayons. The crayons, you'll need to peel the paper off. So I kind of cheated. If you have an X-Acto knife at home, I cut the paper first. and then I peel it off. But you're going to need to peel your some crayons. So choose some crayons and get the paper peeled off of those so that you're ready. So you just need paper, crayons. Later you're going to need scissors and glue. But for now, just paper, crayons, peeled crayons, and textures. So look around your house, find different textures. So like I found this basket's got a cool hard surface. The bottom of shoes make really cool textures. So look at the bottom of your shoes. I like this one. I found some like cooking stuff, placemats, coasters. This has a cool texture. This placemat has a cool texture. So like I got some, and I'll show you how to do it. But this is a frottage from this placemat. Look how cool my shoe bottom looks. This was a combination of this coaster and a pick. So picks and combs are cool. Can you tell what this was a frottage of? Some of it is just fun to do the entire piece. But I got a bunch of comb sets from the dollar store, and they have all these different shapes. I use those for paste paper too. This was a combination of using the combs, and I have this metal can with this raised design. So I thought that was cool. I went in my house. I found this bowl, which had a really cool surface texture. You probably have like a colander. This has cool textures on it. So you're going to go and you're going to find as much stuff as you can that has texture to it, surface texture. These were all neat combs and picks that make good textures. So pause now, get your paper, get your crayons, and find as many textures as you can. Okay, hopefully you found some textures. When we finish, you need to have at least 5 textures included in your finished piece. So I really like the texture of this shoe. I want to show you how to use these crayons to get the best effect. So your high school, just because we're using crayons and we're doing something that maybe you did when you were real young, does not mean we can't make this look really cool. So it shouldn't matter what medium you have. So you'll need to hold it from the side, and you want to press pretty hard. So you also want to go like in one direction, because that's going to pick up some of your design, and then also go in the other direction. So if you think about it, it has to hit all those edges or sides of whatever's raised. So when you're doing this, it's so cool because you just get an exact impression of whatever that texture is. I don't have to do the whole shoe, and I could, if I really like these big zigzags, I could do a whole bunch of these. But you need to press pretty hard, and I'm holding it to the side. If you use the top, you're just going to have a lot of lines. So practice holding it to the side. You have to hold your paper still. So even though I just have red here, I can say, I want to add another color to this. Maybe I'll add, I think this is purple. So it does a little ombre. So you want to use multiple colors on one rubbing. That helps make it not look so plain and simple. Okay, here's my other texture. The smaller papers actually work better because you can see like this is kind of getting in my way. So here's that cool small zigzag. What's it doing down here? So down here, it's like a bigger texture. Anyway, I could do lots of these. I could even have this, like, I could shift it and like have it kind of radiate. I could have a whole design made from the sole of my shoe. But you guys, you need to find at least 5 different textures. When you're doing this, really press hard, layer up your colors, try to find all those neat variations. You could also shift it a little bit when you're doing this. So like if you had, like if I want to do this texture in purple, and I'm going both directions, so I pick up all of that raised part. Say I did that, I could shift it a tiny bit and do another color. And it does kind of an optical illusion. It looks kind of like those 3D drawings where you put on those 3D glasses or movies, especially if you do it in red and blue. If I did it in red and then shifted it, did a little bit of blue. You can do the whole object if you want. That's kind of a cool effect. So like, I don't know what's under here. Here's this pick is so cool to me. So you do have to hold the object still and go over it with the crayon pressing hard. So I'm kind of holding it with my left hand, holding it still. I just think that comb is so cool. You could also do actual objects. Here's my key. People have gone like to Ellis Island, or they visit a grave site and do a rubbing of the names and the dates and whatever's inscribed on there. So you're going to fill up a bunch of these little papers with some really cool textures and lots of colors. Change up the colors that you're using, change up the textures. I made this little sun with this coaster. I put in the middle. I thought, ooh, that looks like the sun. So I was thinking about the colors that I used, and then I used the pick for my parts that radiate. So you can play around. This one was hard to really get that circular, the way it's woven, so I had to make myself make sure I went in both directions. So in order for this to really look like what you want, you have to put some work into it. So press hard, layer up your colors, layer different textures on top of each other, and make sure you have a lot. Okay, so if I want to put my, where's my pick? So if I want to do like some radiating, so I kind of did that and I shifted it. So there's lots of stuff you can get from objects that you find around your house, like this metal basket I thought was cool. And this makes a kind of just a dotted pattern. So to keep this from being boring and plain, holding it in place, now I'm going to shift it a tiny bit and I'm going to do a different color. I'm going to shift it a little bit more. I'm going to do another color. So play around with this so you end up with something where it's like, I don't even know how I got that, but it makes really neat texture, really cool color combinations. You're going to fill up a bunch of these different papers, and then you're going to create some kind of collage with these. So like I said, this is a realistic one. This is an abstracted one. You can add your own drawings to it. You just have to have included 5 textures. And when I say cut out shapes, like I don't have to cut this out, and I don't have to cut a geometric shape. I could have a plan like, or I could go without a plan. Like if I just want to cut abstract kind of shapes or stripes, I could just see where this leads me, which actually is a process called automatic drawing, where you work without thinking and you see what it becomes. I like that. So actually already it looks like little sun rays, but I could just cut all of my pieces and then form them into something, or I could have something in mind, like maybe I want to do a cityscape and I want this to be part of it. You know, it could all be different buildings. So I could cut out a series of all rectangles or all circles, and then arrange those and see what I think. This could be a cityscape, or you know, I could layer these up so they look like different buildings in a cityscape. So your first job is to find all these cool textures. Combs work great. Any kinds of textures, they do have to be kind of hard. Placemats work great. Things from the kitchen work great. So this potato smasher thingy, this little strainer guy, any of those things. So you're going to be getting your small paper, putting the textures underneath with your peeled crayons, rubbing really hard, layering textures, layering colors, so that you have 5 textures. And you're going to show me the different textures that you have. We have to make sure there's 5 of them. And then you get to cut and create your collage.